All right, let's dive straight into this diplomatic quagmire. President Zelensky's fiery Oval Office showdown with Trump. Picture it. The leader of a war-torn nation, already wrangling Russian aggression, walks into what should be a lifeline, but instead finds himself berated. Yes, berated by what used to be Ukraine's staunchest ally. You've got Trump tossing out words like ungrateful and gambling with millions of lives. You know, just all the light, cheerful stuff we expect in these moments. But seriously, this wasn't just personal. This right here was geopolitics slamming full speed into ego. Play this clip.
Volodymyr Zelensky says it's important that Ukraine's plight is heard and not forgotten. He made those comments on social media today, a day after his explosive Oval Office meeting with President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. What was supposed to be a show of diplomacy ended with what some are calling a debacle and without a rare minerals deal. European leaders are rallying behind Zelensky and vowing unwavering support after his early White House exit following the contentious meeting. President Trump said Zelensky can return to the White House when he's ready for peace. Willie James Inman is in West Palm Beach with more. Willie, good morning.
Good morning to you, Dana. President Trump and President Zelensky were set to sign an agreement that would have given the U.S. access to rare earth minerals from Ukraine. They were also preparing to discuss a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. But now the path forward is unclear.
What started out as a pleasant meeting at the White House ended in a tense war of words.
Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
And with the Ukrainian president being kicked out of the White House. The meeting took a turn after Vice President J.D. Vance praised President Trump for working to bring a diplomatic end to the conflict. And President Zelensky responded with a history lesson on how Russia violated previous agreements.
And we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. But after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
Both Trump and Vance then accused Zelensky of being ungrateful.
But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing.
A planned lunch and press conference was scrapped. President Trump posted on Truth Social saying Zelensky is not ready for peace if America is involved. In his own post, Zelensky thanked the president, Congress, and Americans for their support.
They should have an immediate ceasefire. That was the other thing. He didn't want to do about ceasefire. A ceasefire could take place immediately.
Lawmakers, including Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, usually a fierce supporter of Ukraine, blasted Zelensky.
We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again.
Democrats blamed Trump and Vance, with Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer posting, "Trump and Vance are doing Putin's dirty work. Senate Democrats will never stop fighting for freedom and democracy." When asked in a Fox News interview if he owed Trump an apology, Zelensky said no and added,
This is not good for both sides anyway, and I'm very open, but I can't, change our Ukrainian attitude to Russia.
U.S. assistance to Ukraine could now be in jeopardy following this contentious meeting. President Trump has the authority to give nearly $4 billion in military assistance to Ukraine without congressional approval. Errol?
All right, Willie James, thank you for that. Now, that fiery White House exchange we all witnessed has raised serious doubts that the end of Russia's war on Ukraine is near.
It wasn't a small hiccup. No, it was a tectonic shift. Trust completely eroded. Zelensky knows now he's really on his own when dealing with Trump. So where does this leave Ukraine? It turns a partnership into quicksand. One wrong move, and they could sink. And here's the kicker. It wasn't just Zelensky dealing with this storm. All of Europe watched, jaws dropped as this unfolded. You had leaders like Keir Starmer sitting across the pond, probably thinking, we've got work to do. And so Starmer enters, stepping into the spotlight, convening this coalition in London. The kind of bold leadership that depicts Europe's awakening to its role as a heavyweight. Oh, and let's talk about the optics. Starmer hugging Zelensky, rallying other EU leaders for just and lasting peace. Compare that to Trump's Oval Office theatrics. Honestly, if there was ever a moment Europe began taking the reins from the U.S., this could be it. Play this clip. Clash.
Here in Downing Street, and as you heard from the cheers on the street outside, you have full backing across the United Kingdom, and we stand with you, with Ukraine, for as long as it may.
I want to thank you, people of the United Kingdom, such big support from the very beginning of this war. Thank you, your team.
So President Zelensky thanking the people of the United Kingdom, also thanking King Charles, rather. We understand that they will be meeting tomorrow. Look, high stakes right now for Europe. We know that British Prime Minister Starmer sees himself as sort of the bridge between President Trump and President Zelensky. He made a phone call to both leaders after that fiery Oval Office encounter yesterday. But we also know that Europe sees this as a very pivotal time, a very key moment in history. They clearly understand that the world that we've been living in for the past 80 years, post-World War II, has completely changed. This is uncharted territory that many European leaders are seeing here. The moment where Europe needs to take the reins, to be the leader, step up and be the leader of the free world. And so that then brings us to this meeting that's expected to happen tomorrow. This is something that we heard Prime Minister Starmer speaking about when he visited Donald Trump in the Oval Office on Thursday, saying that he will be hosting world leaders from around Europe. 18 countries will be represented in this meeting tomorrow. So everyone from France to Germany to Norway, Switzerland, Canada. We know the Secretary General of NATO will be there, officials from Turkey. And the point of this meeting is to try and discuss how they are going to come together to try and defend Ukraine in the event that Russia were to try to invade again after a supposed peace deal that they hope will be signed. But the big question here is that possible? Could they do that without the support of the United States?
But let me tie this into something bigger. Take a look at this picture. Remember Nikita Khrushchev's famous line, "We will take America without firing a shot. We do not have to invade the U.S. We will destroy you from within." Let that sink in. What misses the mark in communication? A lack of nuance, a self-centered agenda can unravel trust in ways no amount of military strategy could match. And right now, Europe's leading the way in stitching diplomacy back together, showing the power of cohesiveness and, dare I say, effective dialogue. So, this is more than just a breakdown of an uncomfortable Oval Office meeting. It's a wake-up call. The stakes are high, ridiculously high. The question isn't whether Europe is stepping up. It's about how much louder their voice will grow as global leaders. Is this the start of Europe carrying the torch? That's what history will tell us. But one thing's certain for now. When effective communication fails, cracks form fast, and only those with a plan, a real one, can fill the gaps. So let's talk strategy. Keir Starmer isn't just stepping into a leadership vacuum. He's building what looks like a new blueprint for European unity. The London summit? It wasn't just some symbolic gesture. No, this was real action. Starmer went all in, lining up commitments like that over $2 billion loan to Ukraine. But get this, the money isn't just cash thrown into the wind. It's targeted, focused on arming Ukraine to defend itself, on rebuilding once the dust settles. That's a sign of Europe taking its own security seriously for a change, right? And let's not forget how Zelensky's arrival played out in London. I mean, the contrast is wild. You got Starmer greeting him with a literal embrace, crowds cheering on the street. Compare that to his treatment at the White House, where Trump served up humiliation on a silver platter. It's night and day. That kind of reception in London sends a bold message about where Ukraine stands with Europe. And Starmer, he's seizing this moment to show unity, not just in words, but in cold, hard financial and military commitments. Because let's face it, Britain and Europe can't just be passive players in this anymore, especially with the instability coming from the U.S. Starmer himself called this a once-in-a-generation opportunity to shore up Europe's defense and ensure long-term peace. It's smart politics and necessary leadership. What happens now could be the difference between a united response to aggression or a fractured alliance dangling on uncertain promises. But this isn't just Starmer playing host. It's him charting a path forward. The UK, France, other key nations, they're trying to craft strategy on their terms, working out what guarantees they can offer Ukraine if U.S. support wavers even slightly. It's diplomacy, security, and autonomy, all coalescing in London. It's a statement, loud and clear. Europe isn't merely reacting anymore. They're building something durable. And for Zelensky, moments like these are critical. That embrace from Starmer wasn't just for show. It was a reminder to Zelensky, to Putin, and to the world that unity on this scale shifts the playing field. But the question remains, will Europe's autonomy rise enough to meet this moment if partnerships across the Atlantic grow more uncertain? France and Germany, for example, are already laying the groundwork. Now let's shift gears a bit. France and Germany, they're not just quietly watching from the sidelines anymore. No, they're gearing up, drawing plans to redefine European defense strategy, especially in light of Trump's, let's call it unpredictability. This isn't just about rhetoric, it's about readiness. Think increased defense spending, military coordination, and yes, independently orchestrated security guarantees, because if the U.S. acts like it's stepping back, Europe doesn't really have the luxury of waiting to see what happens, right? And let me tell you, this push from Europe is bringing back echoes of the Cold War days. Back then, NATO's eastern flank symbolized resilience, unshaken by constant threats. The unity was palpable. Fast forward to today, and that same grit is surfacing among nations standing against any potential aggression from, you guessed it, Russia. We're talking about fortifying borders, streamlining military logistics, and fostering that collective defense mindset that always works best under pressure. Because let's face it, history has taught us something here. When democracies stand divided, they falter. But when they stand united, the cracks in outside aggression, those cracks begin to show. And Europe, it seems like they're borrowing a page from that old Cold War playbook, but updating it. This isn't just about watching each other's backs anymore. It's about building real, actionable infrastructure for the long term. It's practical, and honestly, it's overdue. But of course, it's not all nostalgic. Oh no, the stakes, let's be real, they're even higher today. As John Bolton, yes, the former Trump National Security Advisor, bluntly put it, Trump has essentially switched sides. His words, not mine. The U.S. has aligned itself not with NATO, but with Moscow. I mean, can you imagine? It's a seismic shift that Bolton himself describes as unthinkable. It leaves Europe no choice but to act, and fast. Because when the scales start tipping toward instability, waiting isn't an option. The question now is whether Europe can truly fill the gaps in defense, diplomacy, and deterrence. France and Germany are taking bold moves. They've seen the risk firsthand, especially with NATO's eastern borders under a constant magnifying glass from Moscow's perspective. And the rest of Europe seems to be catching on, strategizing how to build resilience collectively. If they pull this off, Europe could very well become the next world superpower, thus knocking the U.S. off its throne. All right, let's cut through the noise for just a second. Every single day, we are absolutely bombarded with a flood of breaking news, viral trends, and sound bites that are, more often than not, out of context. But let me ask you, What are we really being told here? What's being filtered before it hits our screens? You see, the mainstream narrative, it isn't neutral. It's curated. It's shaped. Sometimes, let's be real, it's downright manipulated. And that's why the Real 411 exists. This isn't just your average podcast. This is an invitation, a chance to engage deeper, to challenge, to rethink the way we're fed information and how we consume it. Because here's the thing, if we don't ask the tough questions, if we don't dig deeper, we're just letting the same old cycles continue unchecked. And honestly, who has patience for that anymore? So, my hope, my challenge to you is simple. Don't just skim the surface. Dive in, get uncomfortable, and never stop questioning. Because the more we engage critically, the harder it becomes for curated narratives to dominate. Remember, news isn't just about what we're told. It's equally about what's left out. And in that space, the real story lies. That wraps up today's episode of The Real 411. I want to personally thank each and every one of you for tuning in and for your continued support. It means more than you know. If you found value in today's discussion, please drop a comment. Follow us on all social media platforms and let us know what topics you'd like to see us cover next. Be sure to sign up for our email newsletter so you never miss an update or exclusive insight. And if you believe in independent media that digs deeper and dares to tell the truth, please consider following The Real 411 on Substack and Fanbase. We offer both free and paid subscriptions, and your support helps us continue producing content that informs, empowers, and sparks real conversation. Thanks again for being part of this journey, because remember, the story is never just the headline. Until next time, stay informed, stay bold, and stay real.